Hello, welcome to our Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting. My name is Carla Griego. I want to welcome everyone who's here. And before we get started, we always begin with a grounding question. So give me a sec. I was saying hello to everyone and I forgot to take out my laptop, so here we are. So if you can, today we're speaking about inclusion in the classroom, in the general ed classroom. So as we're thinking about that, if we can put ourselves back in our school days and think about any barriers that existed for you as a student in school. And what is something that a teacher or a teacher assistant, someone in school did to help you access the curriculum, access your school experience despite these barriers. So if you can take a moment to think about that, any barrier, and then what did someone do to support you to be able to access? And I'm gonna go ahead and start on my right, if you're ready. And if you can state your name and your role, if you're a parent, a teacher, support staff, whatever, and then respond to the question, that would be great.
Hi, it's lovely to see so many people here today. My name is Cecily, and I am a parent of two LUSD kiddos. One is at Irving Middle School, and the other is at Gala. And I was actually thinking about this question as I was driving over. You know, what works? Because of course, what works for special education is what works for everybody. And yeah, for me, I was thinking about people power, and specifically in second grade, where there was just an extra set of hands, and it was Miss Alicia, and she would do, back then it was called King of the Hill, with multiplication facts. But just that she was able to kind of break up the day, and it was with a smaller group, and it felt very personal and human. And also, I would say having explicit conversations. You know what I'm saying when you have a teacher who's willing to say, hey, I want to acknowledge what's happening here, or like stops in the teachable moments. I think that's also a great practice.
Wonderful. So we will continue moving this way.
I am Shirlette Hendy Newbill, and I too have two little children in the district. I have a 9 and a 12-year-old, so excited, as well as the board member here. But I think for me, it's funny, second grade kind of stood out too. I had Miss Silverstein, and I think it was just the opportunity that Miss Silverstein allowed that you could speak in class, you know? There was a time after that that was like, be quiet. But that you could have conversations, and she would come around the class and just allow you to talk amongst the group, which often that wasn't the practice then. You had to be quiet. And so it was just, I thought, inclusive that you can have conversations with other peers at the table at that time, which for me really helped. So that was my practice.
Wonderful. And I'll go ahead next since we're moving. Again, my name is Carla Griego. I am school board member for District 5. And I was also a special education teacher for 18 years and 2 years as a community school coordinator. And I have a senior at Eagle Rock High School who graduates this year. Yes, I'm so excited. And I guess for me, I want to think back at first grade. I came here when I was 5 years old and I did kindergarten. And I remember not knowing English and I couldn't understand anybody. But then in first grade, my teacher did not speak Spanish, but there was an assistant there. And that assistant would pull me and show me books. And I remember that that was the year that I learned English. And by the end of first grade, I was translating for my parents. So I just remember being pulled aside and working one-on-one with this educator. And I think he would just come in and out. And so that really helped me a lot. People power, like you said, Cecily. Thank you.
I really like this inclusion activity. So for me, as I was born with a disability, so I couldn't walk, and so I had a lot of difficulties. But in school, my teachers were so supportive, and of course, I was out here and there because I had to, deal with therapies and so on. But my adaptive PE teacher, my regular general ed teachers, they all figured out a way to adapt the activities for me, and eventually, everything turned out just fine. I'm just glad they never watered anything down. They still had high expectations for me. So I was eventually able to run the laps and do all the physical education activities, run the Ironman, and do everything I needed to do because the teachers believed in me, and they didn't see my disability as something that would prevent me from participating. So I just thank all of my teachers who adapted and allowed me to be me and to grow and to be able to fit in with all of my classmates.
Hey everyone, I'm David Metz, and I am a theater teacher at Santee Education Complex. And I'm going to cheat a little bit because this is an experience I had in college, but I think it applies to any K-12 situation. But I was taking my first big English class, like college level. We were reading James Joyce's Ulysses. And I was really, really nervous about this. And I thought I could understand it, I could get it, but I just wasn't comfortable with the writing of the essay. But, and the teacher said, look, you can do whatever you want to let me assess your knowledge. You want to do a dance? Because it was a school of fine arts that I was in. You want to do a monologue about it? You want to do a painting? And I chose, yeah, I'm going to do a painting. And so I remember, and I still to this day in my classroom at Santee, I have this painting that I made to remind me, it represented stream of consciousness. And it's this brain kind of feeding into a typewriter. And for me, that was like something that let me, identify and hold on to it. It really made the learning really meaningful for me. And it reminds me of how I have to continue that for my students.
I'm Denise Harper, and the first thing I want to say is Vista. I am a 20-year teacher from Vista, and I am now an inclusion teacher in the math department. And this is a hard question for me to answer because so much of what I do in the classroom is based on my experience, so picking one thing, but I'm going to go with the second grade theme. So I was at the opposite end of the spectrum. I was getting in trouble because I'd have all my work done and I couldn't shut up. And so I had a fantastic teacher in second grade, Mrs. Sumner, and she told me that if I finished X number of books, that she would let me lead my own book group. And so I did, and I got to, at lunchtime, lead my own book group and had a little group of second graders and a couple first graders would come in, and we got to read and look at some different ways of looking at literature.
Hi, I'm Lourdes Ramirez Ortiz, and I'm an administrator of instruction at Region East. I feel like I can connect to every one of those stories that you've shared, but the one that I connected with the most was yours, Board Member Griego, because the first thing that came to my mind is, although I was born in this country, my parents only spoke to me in Spanish. So when I started school in kindergarten, I knew no English, and I was in a bilingual classroom. And then when I started first grade, Ms. Bono took the initiative to with a paraeducator, back then they called them TAs, sit me with her for a little part of the day to go over the phonics. And I still remember those Dick and Jane books. And she would go over the phonics pieces, but she wanted me to learn how to read fluently. And because the school didn't have a lot of money, they couldn't afford to buy books on tape, so she would record herself reading the books to me. She would give me the little cassette with the headphones to take home for homework. And that helped me tremendously. By the time I got to second grade, I was a lot more fluent, but she went out of her way for that, to do that for me, and then with the TA in the space, it made a difference.
Oh my God, all these stories. I love teachers. I'm biased, but no, it's just so beautiful how teachers can make such a difference in our lives as we're growing up, and it's just beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So I'm welcoming Vicki Martinez, and so we were just introducing ourselves and our role and sharing an experience where, as in our schools, where we had an obstacle or barrier, but somehow somebody was able to help us in spite of that. So if you can share an experience that you may have had in your educational period.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Vicky Martinez, product of LAUSD, and I have very similar experiences, but I'm going to go to my fourth grade teacher, Mr. Ramirez from Toland Way Elementary School. I still speak to him. It was a little bit of an issue with some classmates because I had just switched over to this school. I was at Aldama, we moved, so I had to move over to this school. And so there was a little conflict, but he really helped me work through it, and in a way that was so caring that, like I said, to this day, I still speak to the man because he was a great teacher and taught me so much, and I just admire him for sure.
Wow, thank you so much. Well, that was grounding, and today we're talking about the general ed setting and how do we make that space accessible to our students with disabilities and everyone else, right? Because we're all on a spectrum of some need of support. So how do we make that space accessible for all of our students? And so we're going to be hearing from the Department of Special Education or the Division of Special Education, and I want to thank you all for doing this. We just had a meeting last week. I'm really making you guys work a lot, sorry. But I appreciate you putting in the time for this because this is very important to so many of us. And then the beautiful part about today is that we actually get to hear from people who are doing this work. We'll hear from parents and we'll hear from educators, and we might see a video of a student as well. So that just warms my heart because that's what makes the committee meeting so fruitful to me, is to hear from the folks who are doing the work on the ground. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Soto, please.
Check. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Jose Soto, Executive Director of Special Education. On behalf of Chief Tony Aguilar, Special Education and Specialized Programs, we are so thrilled to have this opportunity to present to this committee. We're excited to highlight the power of inclusive instruction in the classroom across the Los Angeles Unified School District, where equity, access, and high-quality teaching are the heart of everything we do. Today, we'll take a closer look at 3 schools, Mosque Elementary School, Vista Middle School, and Venice Senior High School, that are leading the way in creating inclusive classrooms where all students, including those with disabilities, are fully supported and meaningfully engaged. Their work offers powerful examples of how thoughtful collaboration, targeted strategies, and a shared belief in every student's potential can transform learning environments and outcomes. So I'm happy to pass this off to Alicia Haas, our Administrator of Instruction, who will be co-presenting with Lila Rondeau, Administrative Coordinator of Instruction as well for the Division of Special Education, and some of our school site members who are here to present on the great work that's happening at their respective school sites. So without further ado, I'll pass it off to Alicia Haas.
Hello and good afternoon. Board Member Griego, it's lovely to see you again. It just seems like yesterday, doesn't it? All right, so today we are here to talk about instruction in the inclusive classroom. I'm Alicia Haas. I'm the Administrator of Instruction for the Division of Special Education. I'll be co-presenting today with my colleague, Lila Rondeau, our TK-12 Administrative Coordinator for Instruction in the Division of Special Education, as well as, like Dr. Soto shared, several of our school sites and a parent and student who are here to share their experience as well. So we're very excited to provide you with an overview today. That's what Leela and I are going to do for you. But then we're going to be passing it off to our school teams to really get into what does it look like at a school site, how has this influenced the work that they do, and what are the outcomes they're seeing for students. And then we'll finish up with our parent and our student who are here to share their experience as well. So we're very excited to be here today, and thank you for the invitation. All right. It's me. Okay. So again, okay. So today as we begin, it's important to understand that the work we do in this area is based in access and equity. The conversation about increasing opportunities for students in the general education setting begins with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, what we refer to as IDEA or IDEA. This mandates that students with disabilities receive a free and appropriate public education, we refer to that as FAPE, in the least restrictive environment. Overall, LRE refers to the educational setting that allows students with disabilities to be educated with non-disabled peers to the maximum extent appropriate. There are two variables that IDEA looks at when we look at that. Number one is that all children with IEPs should be educated to the maximum extent appropriate with their non-disabled peers. The next piece of that is that when we are considering special classrooms, separate schools, or removal from a general education classroom, we should only do that once we have ensured that all supplementary aids and services cannot be provided in the general education setting. IDEA also puts that responsibility of determining what is the least restrictive environment for each student in the hands of the IEP team, which includes school team members and the family. The opportunity here is to err on the side of opportunity, or the intention is to err on the side of opportunity versus the side of caution. We want to make sure that we're giving our students every opportunity to participate in the general education setting with supports as appropriate before we make a determination that they need to be served in an alternate setting. There is a caveat here that I want to point out that I think is really important. We talk about least restrictive environment, we use the acronym LRE very frequently, and I want to point out that when we talk about LRE in reference to our deaf education students, it is slightly different, so I do want to call our attention to that. When we're speaking about deaf education students or students with deaf education needs, we're talking about LRE with language-rich environment, and that's a really important distinction to make. When we determine the LRE or least restrictive environment for that student, we have to take into account the need for a language-rich environment. And that means that we have to consider their individual language and communication needs and ensure that there's access to the primary language in their communication mode, as well as opportunities to interact with other peers and with professionals who can communicate in the same manner. So I just want to call that to our attention because I think sometimes when we talk about LRE, we sort of talk about it with a blanket approach, but we need to understand, again, that LRE and least restrictive environment is going to be individualized based on the needs of the students, and that includes our students with hearing impairments or deafness. Okay. All right, so IDEA also calls for a continuum of services. That is something that requires us to ensure that we are offering a variety of program needs to meet the variety of needs of our students that we serve. So you can see on the screen a trapezoid shape with a larger base at the bottom. Each of the levels that are indicated there, from general education all the way up through home hospital, are different levels of support and program that should be appointed and presented for students based on the needs that they have. You're going to notice that there's two arrows, one on either side. The arrow on the left replies to the level of restrictiveness of the environment, with the point of the arrow being the most restrictive. So when we look at the level of restrictiveness of the environment, we should see that the highest point of the trapezoid, the home or hospital, is the most restrictive setting, with the least restrictive setting being the base of the trapezoid, which is the general education setting. And when you look at the arrow on the right, you're going to see that the arrow points the opposite direction. This indicates the number of students that we should anticipate seeing served in each different type of program. So the most number of students, or the majority of our students in our district, should be served in the general education setting, with fewer students as we move up the trapezoid. So when we get to home hospital, we should see the least number of students in our district served and the most number of students served in the general education setting. IDEA requires that all school districts provide the continuum of options. And here in LAUSD, we do just that. We provide options for students regardless of their need at every single level of that trapezoid to make sure that wherever it is that their needs must be served, we provide that opportunity for them within our school district. I also want to point out that it's important to understand that our ability to support students in the general education program has strengthened as our practices have developed due to the incredible work that's being done by the Division of Instruction and the Division of Special Education. And as a result, we're able to serve more students than we had previously in the general education setting. that in and of itself is going to shift the numbers of different program types that we need based on the needs of the students. So as we're able to better support students in general education, we'll be able to serve more students in general education. Having said that, we recognize that there are still students that are going to require a higher level of support, more structured systems and programs, and the need to be served in a special day program. So here in LA Unified, we offer special day programs for students, and we have every intention of continuing to offer every one of those areas on the continuum. Okay. So then what is inclusion? If we're talking about LRE, we're talking about least restrictive environment, we're talking about a free and appropriate education and FAPE, we're talking about IDEA, then what is inclusion? Well, inclusion is a belief system. It's not a placement. Inclusion is a belief that all students belong and have the right to access grade level peers and instruction. It's about creating a sense of belonging and a sense of rightful presence. And rightful presence is a term that we're going to be hearing more and more of. It's a term that's being used quite widely nationally. And it's a term that frames inclusion as an equity concept. It looks at students and their civil rights rather than looking at inviting students to participate. So in the past, there had been conversations nationally around, is a student ready or should a student be served, and might we find an opportunity for a student to be served? Rightful Presence looks at it through the lens of it's our obligation as a school district to provide those opportunities and to create those opportunities for students to participate. And inclusive settings are those that look through that lens to make sure that as they're designed intentionally to minimize those barriers and allow and encourage student participation. That we as IEP teams plan for each individual student and their needs to ensure that we're maximizing the educational opportunities for them to be served in whatever that IEP team determines is that particular student's least restrictive environment. Okay? So with that, I'm going to invite Leela over.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Leela Rondo. Okay, so time in general education for students with disabilities is monitored at the federal and the state levels. California developed new performance metric goals in 2020, and this slide shows you a little bit of those. If you look at the percentage of students in general education, 80% or more of the day, that's reflected in the green, and the percentage of students in general education, 40% or less of the day, that's blue. Those are two different percentages that both the state and the feds monitor. The top two rows show the California-wide percentages for students with disabilities, and the bottom two show the LAUSD data. So we're going to start with those green rows. I know it's a lot of data on here. These show the percent of students in gen ed for 80% or more of the day. In 23-24, you can see that California had 59.1% of their students with disabilities in the general education class, more than 80%. And LAUSD, if you jump down to our green, had 63.9%. And then moving to the blue rows, that's the percent of students in gen ed for 40% or less. In 23-24, California had 17.1%, and LAUSD had 23.93%. The goal for this year in that metric is for both of us to bring that down to 13.5%. So just wanted to give you some general context of where we are. We monitor this on a district level as well. Superintendent Carvalho has been a strong advocate for this work, and as such, we have it included in our strategic plan as a district. While the state has a goal of 70% of students served 80% or more of the day in general ed, LAUSD has aimed higher. For 80% of our students in gen ed, 80% or more of the day by 2026. So let's take a look at where our students with disabilities are served in LAUSD. You'll note that there's 3 types of programs delineated here: students in special day classes, students in the resource program, and students who receive designated services only, such as speech. Students served in a special day class program spend the majority of the day without their general education peers. The norm of the classroom is lower, and the class is taught by a special education teacher rather than a content area teacher. You'll notice that there are two types of special day classes listed. There's those for students on the modified core curriculum and those for students on the core or general education curriculum. Just a note that modified core was previously referred to as alternate curriculum, but modified core is a more precise term since all students are required to have access to the core curriculum, but some require modifications. Students receiving resource services spend most of their day in the general education classroom and may receive push-in support, pull-out support, or both. Like Alicia said, inclusion is not a place, but a belief system. So there are students with mild to moderate needs, as well as those with extensive support needs that IEP teams have determined can best be served in the general education classroom through specially designed instruction. And that could look a lot of different ways. That could look like planning for the individualized needs of the students in their IEPs. That's with every single student, of course. Crafting very meaningful and targeted accommodations in the IEP. Teachers using universal design for learning to remove instructional barriers when possible. Structured literacy interventions, such as the 95% group. And the provision of a learning center at secondary schools where students might spend a period of their day receiving support to help them meet their goals in English or math. This is also a place where executive functioning skills are worked on and where reading intervention might occur at the secondary level. For students with extensive support needs, we have inclusion facilitators who provide support to the gen ed teachers. We have an opportunity to hear later from a parent of a student with extensive support needs about their experience being served in general education. So shifting to more inclusive classrooms requires staff support as well. The Division of Special Education provides training opportunities for general education teachers to learn more about how to embed accommodations and how to read IEPs. Also opportunities for special education teachers to build on their intervention skills and opportunities for paras to support small group instruction. We provide professional development on co-teaching and co-planning. And the Division of Special Education has provided funding for common planning time. Regional teams provide regular classroom visits, coaching, and support. And we host a principal advisory committee, professional development for school administrators, and lead teacher meetings to support the work of building inclusive practices at the school sites. We don't do this work alone. We are fortunate to have a lot of great partners. Many of these are nationally recognized partners, including technical assistance organizations CEDAR and SWIFT. We have regular meetings with them, plan PD with them, and receive advice on best practices in shifting mindsets and building skill sets to support this work. We are a grantee of Supporting Innovative Practices, which is also known as the SIP grant, and we walk school sites with them to give direct coaching and feedback to select sites. They help us in our long-term planning as well. Inclusion Matters is a longtime partner who facilitates celebrations of inclusive play. They actually facilitated an inclusive recess at Anton Elementary this past week. And they also help us with our annual Inclusive Schools Week celebration in December. And of course, CSUN and Cal State LA, along with many other institutes of higher education, provide us with professional development opportunities for schools. So with all that said, we want to pass it over to our current practitioners, and we're going to start with Stanley Mosk Elementary.
Good afternoon. My name is Rochelle Ratner, and I'm the proud principal at Stanley Mosk STEAM School and Magnet Center. I'd also like to introduce our amazing assistant principal, David Barba, and we are super excited to share our work around inclusive practices at Mosk with you. To kick it off, we do have a brief video which shows our just culture of inclusion from our students' point of view. And I do have to give credit to Mr. Barba for facilitating this video, so enjoy.
Inclusion is important because if you would include someone, they can feel happy and it would be fun for both of you. Inclusion is important because if inclusion wasn't part of this world, then the society we have now wouldn't exist. Inclusion is important because if kids don't have friends, then once they grow up, they could be depressed, and yeah. Inclusion is important because, let's say you want to join a club, and there's this one friend that's like left out. You could encourage him to join with you, but versus if they're trying to look for people, it's going to be like really hard. Should be happening at every school, and many people from outside the world and schools, because inclusion makes other people feel connected, part of a group, so everyone could feel the same way and they could all have fun. Because they will feel like they're not part of the school and they feel lonely inside. So we have to treat them nicely like other kids.
So I want to tell you a little bit about Stanley Mosque and our demographics. We're a Region North school, and we're located in Winnetka, California. We serve a diverse student population of approximately 500 students, the majority of whom come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. Between 81 and 87% of our students qualify for free or reduced lunch price lunch, and 28% of our students are emergent bilinguals or English learners, and about 12% are students with disabilities. Stanley Mosque Intervention and Enrichment. To support the academic success and holistic development of all of our students, Stanley Mosque offers a variety of programs and extracurricular activities. We would like to promote innovation in science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and which is called STEAM. So we have a STEAM Magnet Center, as well as our school is STEAM certified through the school district, so all of our classes are. Additionally, enrichment opportunities include after-school programs, Lego education, a reading garden, after-school robotics club, gardening club, student council, and even a theater club, all of which aim to engage students beyond the classroom and foster leadership, creativity, and collaboration. Furthermore, these programs are open to all of our students in the school. And then finally, for me, why we increase inclusive efforts. So for us, it's a commitment to equity and access. Ensuring students with disabilities have access to the same high-quality instruction and social opportunities as their peers is a foundational principle at Stanley Mosque. Furthermore, we see it improves student outcomes. Inclusive environments provide greater access to grade-level curriculum, positive role models, which are key to long-term improvement for all of our students.
So let's talk about how we increased our inclusion efforts. First off, we've steadily increased the percentage of our students with disabilities who are spending more than 80% of their school day in general education. So up on the screen, you can see in 2021, 73% of our students were spending 80% or more of their day in general education. Up until now, we have 87% of our students. So we've made really great progress there. Also, too, we have reduced our students in our highly restrictive settings, dropping them from 28% to 13% in over 4 years. So that's spending that 40% in general ed. Also, too, by promoting the inclusion, it's all about our school allowing more students access to the core curriculum with their peers, alongside their peers, which is super important. And additionally, our average special ed instructional time is 14.4% compared to the region average of 26.2%. So when we think about those designated services such as speech, language, adaptive PE, we have significantly reduced that time so they have more access to that core curriculum. But they do get what they need as well. Now, our systems of support, we do a lot to promote inclusive practices at Stanley Mosque. First off, in our bulletin, we have a weekly bulletin that has a dedicated APIS section that provides updates, reminders, and celebrations in regards to special education. And that goes out to our whole staff. In addition, our APIS sends out monthly inclusive practices newsletters to highlight strategies, share success stories, and build a deeper understanding of inclusion across our campus. Also, too, we have so many partnerships. Inclusion Matters has been a wonderful partnership for us. Last December, we hosted Superintendent Carvalho and many district representatives for that teaming, and it was fantastic. There were a couple of pictures, too, in the slideshow that was from Mosque as well. So we're really proud of that partnership and how they support our work with Inclusive Matters. So also, too, we utilize something called WIN time. WIN time stands for What I Need Time. It's our small group instructional time. And it's really neat because we do it kinder through 5th grade, designated time throughout the school day. All students participate in it, as well as our resource teachers. They deliver their service minutes during that WIN time in our classrooms. So it's really important that we really encourage a more push-in model so all of our students are learning alongside their peers. Now, our next steps at Mosque. As educators, we're always growing, and we can always continue to just really do well by our students and increase just everything that we're doing for their success. So first off, we really want to expand the opportunity for our co-teaching and planning amongst all of our teachers. So our general education teachers, as well as our teachers that work with our students with disabilities. So we really need to increase that with all staff. We also want to present additional PD on UDL, so Universal Design for Learning. That's super important because we do want to design those learning experiences that are accessible and inclusive for all of our students. Super important. We want to host more workshops to educate families on inclusive practices and how to support their children. I think that's really important. And then also, too, we want to increase the participation of our students with disabilities in all of our clubs, our sports, our leadership activities. So we could always really increase that participation as well. And then also, one thing that's not on that slide is we really want to continue and really hone our ongoing communication with our families regarding student progress and IEP goals. It's super important that we work together. And I just want to thank you for learning about Stanley Mosque and our inclusive practices. And I'd like to introduce my colleagues at Vista Middle School.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Erin Cuenca. I am also the proud principal, but of Vista Middle School, and I'd like to introduce my APSCS, Leah McConville, and our one of our special education teachers, and also our, I always get this wrong, but she was our inclusion liaison and coach. So this is Lori Wilby. So to start off with, just some data about our school. We have about 1,075 students, 151 of which are students with IEPs. And looking at the types of, oops, sorry, I'm just like clicking away here. Okay, there we go. Our types of programs that our students are participating in, we have about 22% of our students participating in our deaf and hard of hearing programs. And one of the things that I think speaks to our inclusive practices at Vista Middle School that I think is actually one of our most unique programs and inclusive practices is that we offer both our American Sign Language program as well as the listening and spoken language program, which I understand is unique to among schools. And not sure if it's unique across the district, but it is definitely very rare, if not unique to us specifically. So it's one of those things that I think for being in a deaf and hard of hearing program, it's very rare to find both programs offered at the school. So when parents come to the school, they can see and experience both programs. And when students are in the program, they get to see and experience both programs and students from both programs. So it's a really inclusive practice as well, that they're not limited to students from one program or another, but are included across, in addition to students in the general education program, but students in other types of deaf and hard of hearing programs as well, which is pretty, I think, special. In addition, we've got our students in specific learning disabilities, autism programs, and other health impairments, so kind of a general mix of programs as well. So moving on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a real honor to run and implement this work at Vista, and implementing this into the master schedule and making sure that our students had a truly inclusive experience. In 2022, in support of the needs of our students, but also with the motivation of the strategic plan, 80% inclusion across the district, we started getting ready. We relied on our RSP teachers to start leading PD around co-teaching practices, high leverage practices for an inclusive classroom. Not only so co-teachers were successful, but that gen ed teachers who haven't previously worked with a special education assistant or a DHH interpreter knew how to immediately hit the ground running with those extra staff members in their classroom. In 2023, we had a unique opportunity for our students to move into science classes in an inclusive model. These students were previously together for science with an SDC teacher, and they moved into a co-taught setting with a general education teacher. And this was kind of our pilot year to see what our overall staff needs might be to make inclusion successful. Fortunately, both our students had an amazing experience in this pilot run, as did our teachers. And from there, we knew exactly how to scale up. This school year, we have implemented inclusion across all content areas. In that high category of students receiving general education instruction for 80% or more of their day, we have moved from last year at 43% of students to this year where 85% of our students are in a general education setting for 80% or more of our school day. We are very excited about that. And this year we've seen that shift towards rightful presence in teachers finding ways to start their thinking from that place of, these students should be in my classroom. Why wouldn't they be in my classroom? And that has been really wonderful to see, and we're really grateful for the support from Special Education Division and Leela taking my neurotic phone calls month in and month out to make sure our program could be the best it can be.
Hello. I really appreciate the opportunity to represent the dedication and passion that our Vista staff has brought to our new inclusion program. Part of our PDs, we focused on intentional conversations around building cohesive teaching teams through challenging questions and conversations. We also had purposeful demonstrations about how to use accommodations and the difference between accommodations and modifications to help prepare our general education teachers for this work. During our collaboration time this year, our co-teaching teams found this as an excellent opportunity to share our teaching strategies to try and better address the wide range of challenge that our student learners have in the co-taught classrooms. In addition to that, because it was our first year for our 8th grade students to be in, hi Harper. Because it was our first year for our 8th grade students to be in inclusive classrooms, we provided a pilot program that provided additional supports for those students during homeroom. And part of the learning involved was helping a child understand, hey, I need more help and support. All right, what does that look like for you? And to help them use their voice to define what they needed, and then we provided the supports for them to have this additional tutoring. And, you know, empowering student voice, if that's not the main drive of inclusion, I don't know what is. And so our staff was very dedicated to all those kinds of things. Cheers. With our parents, they were understandably concerned about this change going from special day class to full inclusion. And so we wanted to make sure that we provided as many opportunities as possible to have those conversations around these hard choices so that our parents could go into the next year with as much knowledge as possible. So during the year before we went to that larger percentage of kids in inclusive classrooms, we had very intentional conversations during all of our IEPs, because it was 6th, 7th, and 8th across the board moving into those classrooms. So we really tried to prepare our families as well as we could in those conversations. All right, thanks.
So kind of wrapping it up and looking at our next steps, I think one of the things that is most encouraging when thinking about inclusive practices, and I apologize, I have been kind of getting over being sick, so I don't normally have this husky of a voice, is that as we've been monitoring our data, it's been really encouraging to look at, when we look at our iReady data, our students with disabilities have been performing above where they would normally be expected to be at for their mid-year data. They're progressing above where they should be expected to be performing based on the metrics that we're using with like iReady in both math and reading. So they're making more than expected gains when they're being with their gen ed peers. And so the inclusion practice or the inclusive practices that we're using are showing definite improvements in student academic performance. And so when we look towards what we're going to be doing for our next steps, we're looking at continuing to refine our master scheduling practices to make sure that we're making sure that those pairings are solid, the pairings that the teachers have. We want to make sure that we're reducing the number of separate pairings so that teachers are having more solid and reducing the number of separate pairings so that they have individualized pairings, maybe less pairings per teacher, so they can really focus on collaborative planning time, individualized, as opposed to having 2 to 3 pairs per teacher. They can have maybe more one set of pairings, and they can focus on working together in a unique set, and working on strengthening their differentiation and planning skills so that they can more utilize that in-class planning time. We have a 2x8 schedule, so we have 80 minutes per period, and we double block that time. So really using that time and strengthening those in-class skills and maximizing that in-class time, that common planning time, and impactful structures within the week. We have really strong skills with our teachers and our common planning time, so really making sure that we're building that time and including those co-teacher times, making sure that those structures are in place, not just for the department time, but also for the co-teacher time, that the co-teacher time is set up in that common planning structure as well. And we're setting that time up deliberately to really maximize the inclusive practices with them as well, because it really has been showing those gains based on our data. And then again, just really focusing on differentiated department PD. It's been identified with our impact review as something that we need to develop further. We've gotten really positive feedback from the ETO office, and we're just going to keep pushing that even further, because I think we're really doing well as a department and as a school. So we're really ready to move to that next level. So thank you very much for your time. And now to introduce Venice High School.
Good afternoon, panel. We are grateful and honored to be here. My name is Miss Yovanka Harrison Truitt, and I consider myself the present and proud principal of Venice Senior High School. Here joining me is our special education support provider, also known as a special education coordinator, Mrs. Melissa Mueller. We're going to open up with a video that can share a little bit about how we got here.
Some of the smartest people that I know are in special ed.
I have agoraphobia.
It's hard for me to store information in my
head.
I was born with a muscle weakness disease.
Yeah, I feel embarrassed.
I found out that I was dyslexic in the 3rd grade, but I never knew what it was. Some people need more help than other people.
I don't like to do homework.
I like to learn, and I'm pretty chill.
I've been a special ed since middle school.
I get it, but it takes me longer.
I've been bullied a lot.
I thought people were my friends and stuff, love issues, just all those shenanigans.
The second semester of 10th grade, I had surgery on my heart.
I get angry, walk out, I wouldn't even do the work at all.
I don't tell people I'm in special ed because there's a stigma.
I don't pay attention a lot. I get distracted easily. I'm the funniest person on earth.
Sometimes I'm shy to answer a question or ask.
Senior year, I didn't think I was going to graduate at all because I had surgery twice. My grades were just like slipping.
Everyone needs help in certain areas of their life, and the kids in special ed just need help learning, and there's nothing wrong with that. Ask questions, okay? Ask questions. I'm telling you, all right?
Explaining more to me, you know?
Well, I would want the teachers to know that I have accommodations and I have an IEP, so they could help me out and work with me.
I think it better if I'm hearing it or if I see it visually. They should figure out how to connect with us.
Take the time out to really teach your students and get to know them, because you're going to spend basically almost this is our second home, okay? And if we don't feel welcome, we're not going to participate or respect you.
Teachers could ask you more questions about yourself and get to know you more before they start saying if you're bad or good or not, because they don't know what you have going on at home.
A lot of the time, general education teachers don't really understand that sometimes things take a little more time to go step by step. Sorry, it should not be a reason why you're failing, okay? When you have all this help. Yeah, but anyway,
I'm graduating in December because I already walked the stage in June.
I'm gonna go to college and I'm gonna major in professional singing and cinematography.
That was the best day of my life. I want to go back.
I'm gonna graduate and I'm gonna be a nurse.
Of course I'm gonna graduate, man. I'm going to be a massage therapist.
I'm gonna be a kindergarten teacher. I'm going to be an astrophysicist.
I made this video.
So as you can see, the reason for our season, our students are excellent at advocating for their rightful opportunities to be in general education. So here's our school overview. As of today, Venice High School has 2,261 students enrolled. Of those 2,261, 254 of our students are students with disabilities. Here on our graph, you see our breakdown of our eligibility, with our largest being our students with specific learning disabilities, second, other health impairment, and third, students with autism. Within that, 88% of our students are primarily in general education for all day, most of the day. As you can see, 224 of those students are in the general education settings for the A through G courses, including English, math, science, and history. Most of them are in at least more than one inclusive setting where they have their co-teaching opportunities going on. 30 of our students are currently participating in our modified core program, along with having their general education electives. Some of these students have one elective, some could have up to 3. Some of them even opt to have adaptive P later as an elective because they enjoy it. These students include programs such as the intellectually disabled moderate, our intellectually disabled severe, and our multiple disabled orthopedic students. Other than that, we also have our developmental support classes. By course title, we call them developmental read, developmental math. Many other people know them as the learning labs or the learning centers. We have 85 of our students taking those. Those are usually determined as most of our students that come to Venice come from special day programs. So we provide this as the supplemental service support in their transition, which course or both is based on the individual IEP.
So why is Venice doing this? So Venice began the transition to those co-teaching and increasing those inclusive practices in the fall of 2019. because we strongly believe that all of our students deserve equitable access to rigorous instruction, meaningful learning, and the same opportunities, not only for them to succeed at school, but also to be successful in their post-secondary careers. How did we do this? So Venice provided co-taught classes in all of our A through G courses. So in the 4 years of English, in the 3 years of history, or 2 years of science. And what that means for Venice is our model consists of a general education teacher, a special education teacher, and a paraprofessional in all of those A through G courses that they take. So the systems that we use to increase our inclusive practices is a lot of professional development, obviously scheduling, collaboration time, and then we still operate an inclusion steering committee that meets on a monthly basis. Through our professional development, we really work on co-teaching strategies such as parallel teaching, such as team teaching. We also bring in other school sites that want to increase their inclusive practices, and we've been doing a lot of that as well. We also do Summer Institute with those co-teaching, where at the end of the year, if teams change partners or they want to reflect, we do that through the summer, through a Summer Institute.
So what's the data show in terms of the impact? So rightful presence means that our students have their social access to their peers. So right here on the left, you might notice the students with disability progress towards the LAUSD district goals. This data is being pulled from the School Experience Survey. So in this area, you can see that Venice is the dark blue. In all 5 of these categories, Venice is superseding the district. In social awareness, our students are scoring higher. In post-secondary, in growth mindset, in self-efficacy, and self-management, all since we have converted to a fully inclusive practice. On the right, just to extend how far we are going, what was really important for us is for our students with disabilities to feel more prepared to apply and attend four-year institutions. So you can see here, since we started in 2019 and our first full grade level making it heading towards college by 2021, you see the continued growth where we're outscoring LAUSD in post-secondary, A through G, ready, graduating, and prepared. So more of our students with disabilities are now attending, applying, and completing four-year institutions. Next steps for Venice, increasing students on the four-year college track. So we want to continue that movement. We want to expand that even further. So we work closely with the teachers on our campus from the Division of Transition to assist in getting more opportunities for exposure to continue to grow the confidence. We need to increase skill set for our general education teachers and supporting all learners. So we are very excited as the Department of Instruction and the Division of Special Ed continue to guide and expand the variety of professional opportunities for the co-pairs to get together and train together instead of in silo. So we're really grateful for these opportunities. So we're also looking to build the capacity of our co-teaching teams. As we stated, when we design our master schedule, they all have shared conference periods. However, sometimes we don't get as much time for our liaison to get out, so we are designing more opportunities for our liaison to guide the growth of the co-teaching teams. Lastly is developing our new ideas, our new parent inclusion ambassadors. As we have done a large movement in gathering more community families to come back to our school and take this opportunity and take this adventure with us, we are looking to get them to be the ambassadors to help support both us and the district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce May Malari, who's here with her son, Devin. And they're going to share a little bit about their experience as a family within LAUSD.
Good afternoon. My name is May Malari, and I'm here with my son, Devin. Thank you to this committee and to the Division of Special Education for inviting Devin and I to speak today and to share our inclusion journey. As background, Devin is my middle child of 3. He has an older brother, Jake, and a younger sister, Mimi. He's 19 years old and currently a super senior at the LA Zoo Magnet. We live in Studio City, and Devin has been fully included at each of our home schools, LAUSD home schools, from kindergarten to present, a total of 14 years. And you might ask, why did I choose inclusion? Obviously, the concept was different 14 years ago than it is today. And I think it was, I had to think back, it's a long time ago, but I think it was really 2 things. One was a comment that the geneticist said to me when we were in the hospital when I had delivered Devin that stuck with me. And what she said was that Devin was never going to be like his brother. And as a mom, I think that poked the mama bear in me and made me say, why not? Secondly, when Devin was 3 years old, there was an organization that opened its doors called Club 21. It's a learning and resource center located in Pasadena, and their mission statement, Club 21's mission statement, was to provide educational tools and resources that enable individuals with Down syndrome to be fully included. They were a big part of, I think, why we chose inclusion for Devin, because they shared the vision before I knew the vision and what it was about. In terms of how inclusion has worked for us, throughout the entire time, I only had one ask, and that was to have the support of the IEP team in terms of our vision and to put Devin in a classroom where he was wanted. It didn't matter if the teacher didn't have special education training. It didn't matter if she'd never worked with a student with Down syndrome. It didn't matter if the teacher or educator wasn't sure how it was gonna work. As long as their heart was open to inclusion, that was all that mattered. And that was the only thing I asked for all these years. And it worked. I think it's important also to emphasize that Devin being fully included, so he took regular classes from kindergarten, the normal English, math, history, science, all throughout. And the expectation has never been for him to keep up. That wouldn't be fair to him nor anyone else, the teachers, no one, if the expectation was to keep up. I only wanted Devin to have access. I wanted him exposed to things that I grew up, like reading and learning about the Diary of Anne Frank. We all did that. I wanted Devin to have that opportunity to learn Shakespeare, and no matter what was being covered in the classroom, there was always something that Devin was able to get out of it, something meaningful in terms of whatever curriculum. And I want to say that based on him being included all these years, what I've noticed is that where he thrived and where he was most successful were in the classrooms where he was the most integrated. It was the classrooms where they were working collaboratively with his peers in group settings, and where he was an active participant in the class. Lastly, and I think the most important piece why I was asked to speak was to talk about the benefits of inclusion for not only Devin, but also his peers and his classmates. And I wanted to, this was too late of a thought to share photos, because as everyone knows, a photo speaks 1,000 words. I captured through these years many beautiful moments that basically affirm that we did the right thing and that inclusion is a beautiful thing when it works. But we weren't able to bring the photos, and so I wanted to describe things that I've captured throughout the years. One of them was a picture of Devin when he was young in elementary school. And there was something special going on at the school that day, a fair or something. But I have a photo of him, it's just the backside of him and his classmate sitting on the sideline, and he's got his arm around his classmate, a friend of his, and that was it. And the photo was touching to me because I later learned that this classmate was sad. I don't remember why, but he was sad, and that Devin was there to offer him comfort. There were probably no words exchanged that day between the two of them, but it was a simple display of care and friendship. Devin sensing that his friend was having a hard day and taking a break from the school festivities to offer support. I have countless pictures of Devin working on projects, assignments, labs, in collaborative groups in the classroom. And it always seemed, Devin always had a task. So whenever he worked in groups, they always gave him a job, and it was always the perfect one for him. And I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't the teacher, it was the students who amongst themselves would determine, and it was always the perfect role or task for Devin. I have tons of pictures of Devin with Juliana. Juliana is a friend that he met in middle school at Reed. And they had, from that time, developed a meaningful and special relationship that has withstood time and distance. At Reed, during middle school, Juliana was Devin's desk partner. She showed up for every buddy lunch on Fridays when they would integrate the special education students with the gen ed students. Juliana attended school functions and events with Devin, and they separated in high school. They went on to different schools. Juliana is now in a different state, in Oregon, I believe, in college. But to this day, whenever Devin calls her, she answers the phone. I've heard her answer the phone in class. I've heard her answer the phone, I think, out on a Saturday night. But, even though they haven't attended the same school since middle school, at the time, they developed a special friendship. And like I said, she continues to be someone really special to him. Another picture I wanted to share was from Devin's 18th birthday and graduation party last year. It was a mix. It was a mix of friends from school as well as friends from Club 21 and the Down syndrome community. The picture captured the full circle of what our inclusion journey has been. Just Devin and his friends, with and without disabilities, dancing and having a good time together. Finally, the last picture I wanted to share on our inclusion journey is one that hasn't been taken yet. And this picture is going to be the one of Devin holding his diploma this June. The alternate pathway to the diploma is going to open up the door to a world of possibilities for Devin and thousands of other students with disabilities. For us, Devin receiving a diploma is also symbolic of all the hard work that he has demonstrated these past 14 years, his bravery and his courage to be different, to teach others to embrace differences, and to always ask for a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My goodness. What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you, Devin, for sharing your story with us. and congratulations on the upcoming celebration. So happy for you. Yes. Wow. Are we done with the presentation? Okay. I'm still taking it all in. This was such a beautiful presentation from everyone, very much inspired by all the work that you all are doing. And I'm going to open it up for some questions. But before I do that, I forgot to say that if the committee can stay afterwards, I have some nice certificates for you in appreciation for your volunteerism coming out here to participate in the committee. So, but I would like to open it up to some comments, some questions, and I also have my discussion question that I'd like to put out. If you would like to respond to this, and this is in your experience, what are some strategies that work in an inclusive classroom, or even as a parent, right? What are some things that have worked for you, and what supports do you need to make these strategies work? I think a lot of our presenters today shared the strategies and also shared the supports that you need to make it work, right? So that's one of the questions that we can discuss here. And like you know, I always take notes so that we can take this back and see what we can do to affect change and make things, you know, more inclusive but appropriate, right? So for our students. So I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments. Yes, Cecily.
So exciting. Thank you for all your work. And the first question I have is teacher burnout. So much of this is expected. I was talking about how we're miracle workers as teachers in the classroom, what they're doing, and teaching is challenging, you know, as is. So I am wondering, you know, your question about what makes it work. So class size. I also think about salary, that we have to pay everybody double. So what would you say are the things that feed your teachers? Like if you can make, what top 2 or 3 changes would you make? Because also I think about relationships and people, you know, because when teachers stay and are feeling good, then you know a kid, right? You know a student from the time they're in kindergarten to the time that they graduate. So what do you want? What are the things that feed the teachers to be able to really provide high quality instruction?
I think it's super important that you have a culture of collegiality and just understanding and support. Those times that you give our teachers to collaborate, to get to know each other. Ms. Grego, you mentioned that inclusive activity you had in the beginning. Those are important to build into professional development, to meetings, you know, so they do get to know each other and know how to support each other. That's super important. That time together, building that in, to co-plan, to teach, co-teach, and then just to get to know each other because we all bring strengths to the table. We really do. And then lastly too, those fun activities that you plan for after hours that teachers get to go do and you just have fun and get to know each other because I think building all of that together really makes them a strong team. Because, you know, things go awry sometimes, right? But you have lots of successes too. So it's really great to celebrate and support each other through all that.
Because I saw you have like a summer institute. I mean, what do you do? Co-teaching is, I mean, human personalities, right? And so I'm wondering, what do you do if you do have 2 people who are reluctant to work together or their visions of management are totally different? You know, I'm just wondering again how you set them up for success.
So Venice was very clear that at least 80%, except when we have new teachers come in, are authentic, chosen by each other, which is why I want to bring back the idea of the inclusion liaison's value for all those who really are familiar with how the district opened up with their inclusion initiative, it was designed by them. And so we've carried this role and, on our own backs at the school to ensure that we have the inclusion liaison. And they're the ones who get out, that check in on the partners. And we have had partners that maybe kind of went awry and their personalities had trouble. And we use restorative practices in those cases. I have ran small circles for those teachers to get them back on course. And that usually happens when the partnership was developed because they're new to the school and we just needed the course. So they did not get to choose each other. But in most cases, we start in January reviewing the partnerships in time for the matrix and the master schedule in order to see if there's some shifting that needed to occur or intentionally needs to occur. So that's where the liaison gets out and runs around class to class, meets with them, and then gets back to us and the APSES and says, this is what we got, this is what's new, this is what's gonna be consistent. So yes, it does require strong relationship building, and that is why we continue to ensure that our master schedule, they have shared conference.
I don't know that they're going to do it. So I'm incredibly proud that sitting behind me not only are 3 school teams, but 3 school principals who are here representing that work. And so I really want to call out, there's also a leadership component to that. Every one of us in every aspect of our life, in every club we're in, department committee we sit on, everything, we have an opportunity to have a common shared goal and vision. And when we have a leader who instills that and brings that from the top and says to us, this is what we believe at our school, I think that there are people that may not always get along. We all have had experiences with people that we definitely preferred, or people that perhaps, given another setting and another opportunity, we might have made a different choice. But together we work as a team and we work in it. And I just want to call out our 3 all of our amazing presenters, but our 3 principal leaders that are here today, because they have set a tone and an expectation at their school site that the only thing that should happen and be at the center of everything are students. And because that is the vision they've brought forward, their staffs and their teams have come and rallied together around that to sort of look beyond whatever minor issues or obstacles that may come up to find solutions, because they're all there to support the students. So I just really want to take a moment to commend our amazing 3 principals that are here today.
Thank you. Is it working? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Venice High School is a community school. So happy to hear that. And also, I heard so many beautiful things about how you deal when there is an issue that arises among staff. And you said restorative practices, and you do circles with your staff to try to address the issues before they get even worse. I love that. I also heard common planning time and how you work with your counselor to make sure, or your AP for counseling, to make sure that somehow that happens. And the liaison who is there to support the whole process. I think that when I'm thinking about strategies, but what supports do you need? That's what I'm thinking about, because I know what I've heard from teachers who are in some schools that are implementing inclusion is that they don't have planning time. That makes it difficult to co-teach. And then all of a sudden, it's not an inclusive classroom per se, but rather the special ed teacher is like an aide, an assistant, And so, but those are very key, I think, and I appreciate, and I think all of you actually said that, and I appreciate also what you said about just making things joyful for them, having inclusion activities, because really education is about relationship building, right? A teacher builds relationship with students, and so we need to do the same thing with our own staff. They need to build a relationship, and it has to be intentional. I'm going to open up more space. Yes, Victoria, Vicky, and then, yes, Denise. And I apologize, I have to look at your names.
Thank you so much. I have a couple questions. Everything I'm hearing is amazing. Thank you. I appreciate everything all of you do for our students. But I am really concerned with all these budget cuts, right, coming down the pipe from federal funds. What do you foresee as that being an issue for your school site? And then that comes back to here. Are we supporting them so that they don't suffer? And how are we doing that? That's one.
So regarding the funding component, I think that as we're receiving this information, we're still in the process of understanding what the impact's going to be. So we may not have an answer in terms of what that's going to look like, but that's definitely something that the superintendent will be engaging the board and the school communities and everyone and the district about what that impact's going to be. Specifically, he did make an announcement at a recent board meeting about the executive orders that have been introduced, and so we're just at this point trying to decipher all of that and then be able to understand what that impact's going to be, and of course ensuring that everyone knows and that we do something about it, like some kind of advocacy to ensure that our schools have what they need to continue the programs that they have.
Thank you. The other question that I had was around the schedule for the middle school, if I'm not mistaken, or was the high school that uses the block schedule? Is it the middle school? Has that always been the case? And how has it worked? And then I want to know if that continues on to the high school, to Venice as well.
Hi. So the 2x8 block schedule for us, this is our second year. It's my first year as the principal at Vista, so, but it's the second year of the block schedule. It depends on which high school they go to, whether or not they're going to continue on with a block schedule. So when they move on to the high school, they do have some options to choose, whether they choose a magnet school, whether they choose one of their resident feeder schools, whether they end up in another block, or they might end up in a 4x4. There's a lot of different choices in the feeder schools that are nearby us. So it just kind of depends on what the parent wants as their choice. But we are currently moving into, we're keeping our 2x8 going forward, but it's been working for us, but it's a relatively new experience. But so far it's been doing well. I think that 80-minute block has been serving the students well. How we've been able to utilize the time blocking the ELA and math, I think, has been beneficial. It's allowed us to incorporate intervention in ELA and math, which I think has definitely shown growth for us. Definitely we've seen it for our special education students, but also just in general across the board for our gen ed students as well. So yeah, it's been real helpful for us.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of course.
Thank you for all of the wonderful information, especially the data. I always appreciate seeing the data. Couple things. Before I even get into it, I think that we need to make a shift in the educational community. We need to stop differentiating on credentials between a special educator and a general ed educator. When we do that, then teachers will be getting credentialed with this idea of inclusion already. You are a teacher. What works for special ed, as Cecily said before, works for everybody. And as long as we continue to differentiate between these two areas, there's always going to be a sense of conflict and not the unity that we need to be fully inclusive moving forward. What do I need as an inclusion teacher besides time? I love the idea of fun. I think that's really important. And not all relationships work, just like in the real world. And so there needs to be a freedom to make changes when they need to be done. When you've done those restorative practices or you've tried to look at it alternative ways, no one should feel bad about that relationship not working. It needs to be an option, and the students have to be at the center of it. When it comes to support for students, we at Vista, I'm very proud of the support we give our students for math and English, but I would also like to see the district supporting science and history with a co-teacher. Because history is about reading and writing. And if you already are at a grade 2 or 3 in your reading and writing skills, and then you're expected to go into a history class and compete, and even with your accommodations still are falling short of that ability, and you only have a paraprofessional some of the time to support you, you're not getting the full opportunity. If there's a co-teacher there, it's a different experience for a student. And when I'm working with my students, I am not just co-teaching my students with IEPs. I'm coaching my gen ed students also. And our students view us as we are both teachers in there, and we are just as capable of answering their questions and supporting them. And they don't differentiate, oh, I've got to go to Harper, or I've got to go to Martinez, or, whatever. And that needs to be what happens for those students. They really need more support. I would like to see that on a district level, because of course it's all about money too. And, traditionally Resource has always supported only English and math. But hello, history is just another name for an English class. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, David.
Hi, so, I'm a theater teacher at Santee, and I have the privilege of teaching students who are who have moderate to severe disabilities in an inclusion setting with my gen ed students. And at first it was kind of, lonely trying to figure out how to do it, because I didn't get a whole lot of extra support or training. In fact, I didn't really have any. But I started to figure out that theater wound up being an amazing tool to help create a sense of community. And I know that, when you have a hammer, everything's a nail. But there's something about theater that seemed to connect with everyone. And this is the idea of universal design for learning, because there's a story underneath every theater piece. And so I started doing storytellers theater, and I started to figure out, that there was something for everyone to do, no matter what their ability. They could be building props, they could be making costumes, they could be designing costumes, drawing costumes, doing the makeup. I mean, there's so many different ways of supporting a production that it wound up being a perfect vehicle to include these students. And so I guess what my question is, did any of these three wonderful schools experience the benefits of arts inclusion programs? And if so, especially theater, in terms of like project-based learning, or just any kind of performing arts, and what might you be able to share about your experience with that?
Hello. So at Venice, we have students with extensive needs that are participating, not just students with extensive needs, but all of our students who have disabilities in various arts programs, whether that's art, theater, graphic design, automotive shop. We have auto shop that they seem to really like. So wide variety, right, of courses. We have screen printing and things like that they really love. But in terms of theater, for our students with extensive needs, it has given them access and a voice and being able to collaborate with their peers. With the beauty of Venice and our ability is we have heavily supports through paraprofessionals who come and can support general education teachers, but also they're provided similar collaboration time with those teachers who teach that modified core. So those teachers' classes line up, that they can collaborate together. And so they're able to do that and develop. When I was teaching in the classroom as the intellectually disabled severe teacher at Venice, I worked with the music teacher, I worked with the theater teacher. Sometimes some of our students are difficulty with monologues, right? A heavy-based reading that needed to be modified or accommodated to support them. And so we work together to develop that, and our teachers are doing that now. Each student has specific needs and needs that, but we're fortunate enough that we have paraprofessionals. If that period, it's second period theater, for instance, and the teacher can't go with them, obviously, to support during that time, that those paraprofessionals have those skill sets to support that accommodating work or helping it bring back and collaborating with the teacher for modifications and things like that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, yeah.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Go ahead. Yes, you go first, and then.
Well, I want to say thank you for the presentation. Wonderful. And thank you, Devin, again, for sharing your story with us. And I wanted to add to the leaders, as we mentioned before, you guys have come in different spaces. One have been there for a longer time. One has just come in to the point of talking about co-teaching and how to get the buy-in for the staff to embrace this concept. And once it's already there, I think, Vista, you shared it was there before you got there, and how you transition into that space to continue it, and then those that had already been there. Can you share a little bit to the strategy into that piece? And then the other part was to the class sizes that we were talking about earlier, as far as having a special ed as well as general ed combined. What does those class sizes look like? So those are two things.
Yeah. So, okay, co-teaching. So let me can you restate the questions, I think, and as I came up, I
with the co-teaching as a leader of the campus, and we've mentioned just the work that you've done to bring it here. And so some groups have grown in that. Started small as a pilot, then it grew. Some was like 50% increase real quick. And then for you having so many co-teaching, and not that the partnership always works, but how do you continue to encourage that buy-in from the gate for schools that may not already have that and are looking to figure out, how do I do it? What are some of the strategies on that end to make it successful?
Thank you for that question. So we're really talking about the mind shift that took place and what needed to take place. So we started out touring. So at that time in 2019, LA High was the mover and shaker. That was really the place to be for high school. So we took our interested teachers, both in Gen Ed and SPED, over there to tour, to sit down with their teachers, their administrator. I sat down, we got to learn, like, what does it really look like? So I want to give credence to what the work that was going on at LA High at that time. They were a really true guiding factor. Then we decided we were ready, but what we needed to do was take it one course and one grade at a time. So we started out with 9th grade with English and math, which is not uncommon, with teachers that were interested in taking this adventure. So we started with them. Then every year we had them present. They would present throughout the school year, as well as our SPED does their annual various presentations of how to provide supports, how to understand IEPs, et cetera. But these are the times where we would use to spread the knowledge. So when they would speak to their own colleagues about their successes, their passion, how important, how valuable it actually has been even to have a partner in the room. I wish I had that for my 15 plus years in the classroom. When they were able to do that, then they began to volunteer on their own. And as they began to continue to watch it grow, that is really, they're doing it themselves. The teachers are being able to speak to their work, their opportunities, their experience, the supports they're given, because I can't sell it by myself. So we continue to let it sell itself. So by the 3rd year, the district said, you are officially in our inclusive transition. So that is how we leaped from 9th to adding 10th. And within our 3rd year, we went full. 11th and 12th, we incorporated within 1 year. Okay. So our classes are at standard class sizes as appropriate, as deemed by the contract. What we do is we have clear, when we enroll our students, we make sure that we have our average percent. So we try to average no more than 30% of students in that classroom that are currently receiving that service. So there could be students in that classroom that have an IEP, but they're not there for the service, so that we can manage it per period. And I hope that helps.
Thank you.
I'll just add in a little bit. You've heard a lot about co-teaching today, which is a fabulous strategy. However, it's not the only way that we have students with disabilities included. And what we know is that we would love to have 2 teachers in every single classroom in this district, but we do not have the bandwidth or capacity at this time to do that. We would love to. So with that said, a lot of it has to be co-planning. the general education teacher and the special ed teacher getting together and planning out what supports do we anticipate the student needing? What barriers do we see, not just for this student, but for other students who are in the classroom? Something that we like to point out to schools too is that when they're in a special day class, that is a far smaller ratio, but those teachers can go with those students into those gen ed classes. Something that schools might not always realize is that when students are served in gen ed for 50% or more of the day, that student now begins to draw down additional general education teachers for that school. So for example, if a school is moving their students who were previously served in a special day class setting into gen ed, that school is going to generate additional gen ed teachers. They'll earn more gen ed teachers as part of the norm. So just something else to think about.
All the tricks. Thank you. Let's see, yes, Cecily, and then somebody else did somebody else want to share? Okay, why don't you come up? Sorry.
If I get the gist of your question appropriately, stepping out of your own classroom and into someone else's space and trying to build that team, there's nothing easy about that. But when you have an admin team that gives teachers voice, just like we want to prepare our students to have voice, that changes everything. Because how you are in that moment matters to everyone that has something at stake in this arrangement. So we had our conversations, we had our restorative practices, we had our divorces, but it was what the situation required, because there's never one size fits all. And as long as we are reasonable about what we ask people to do, at Vista, our science team, giving them a shout out, it should be at full volume. They stepped up hugely to just take that lead role without any complaining. And as they got deeper into the first phase of inclusion, they drove the conversation for all the other teachers because they had questions about the day-to-day and how to meet the needs of students. And then the other teachers came along for the ride, right? We had a lot of new teachers last year when we started, or this year when we started, because this is our first year? Oh, dear. Okay. This is our first year of full inclusion.
It felt longer.
Yeah, it felt, well, let me tell you about length of time, right? Okay, so we had a lot of new teachers, and we shared the wealth. Everybody got a taste of what inclusion is, and we as a special ed team were kind of spread thin, but it was really equitable, and that's the driving force too, right? Voice and equity, thank you. What time is it? Yeah. And so everyone had the experience, and these were hard things. We had to be adults, right? We had to have hard conversations with one another. We didn't agree, my teacher and I, we didn't agree about a lot of stuff. And I'd like to tell you something that was very surprising. When I first started inclusion, I knew my 8th graders because I had taught them in SDC the year before. And I found that I had to completely ignore them. I had to normalize that I was in that space to provide support and teach kids, but yeah, I know you, you know me, but you don't want anybody to know that we know each other. And I've always respected that with my students. I normalized co-teaching in the classroom, and then everybody felt comfortable asking for support. I found that surprising as our first layer, but it was a very important one. All right, cheers, thanks.
Thank you so much, and we're almost nearing the, but no, please come on up. I'm sorry.
It'll be so fast, I promise. Just 2 things. I want a thumbs up, HT. When people see it happening, they want it. How am I going to get a co-teacher next year? We also built an instructional rounds looking at high leverage practices for students with disabilities using the Look For tool from DSE. And finally, something really special at Vista is because we have the new teachers, we see that the experienced RSP and former SEC teachers coming into inclusion, they're leading instruction more. The new teachers are watching them teach the IM lesson that they're struggling with, the mentorship that has been built into the process because of those pairings has been really, really awesome to see. Thank you.
I have to add one more thing.
And I know, oh, yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. From an elementary perspective, we've had an experience that's been amazing with our teacher in our modified core. She has really tapped into student interests to bring our general education students to her classroom, which is really neat. So she actually invites our general education teachers to sign up their class to come into her classroom where they co-teach on an interest that is just really interesting to all the students. So those high interest things, not only is it going from her classroom to a general education classroom, but it's a general education classroom moving to her classroom as well. And our students feel so comfortable, all of our students, and they know that this is all of their classrooms, which is really a wonderful experience for them. So,
Wonderful. Cecily, yes.
This is my last burning request. I think it's all coming together. To Ms. Malari's point, when an image teaches you so much, when you see it, you want it. You brought a great video. At Venice, you have a student who makes videos. This is what I'm wondering, right? Because when you've got a co-teaching situation that really works, I'm thinking about history, 7th grade world history, right? You have a 100-minute block. I would love to watch a video. Do you know what I'm saying? Where the teacher breaks down, all right, this is the amount of time for whole group instruction where we're laying out, the goal of today. To your point earlier, right, it's group work that's often most effective because students can co-teach each other. So that's my request. My thought that it's all coming together is a video. You know how it helps, like, David, you're saying when it's given to you, you're like, what does it look like? That's my request. Even a 5-minute, 10-minute video of this is how we break down this 100 minutes in a 7th grade history class in ways that work.
So I know we're closing up. I just want to address that, and I want to give a gratitude. So as a division of special education, those are the types of things that we're working with our school sites to produce for next year. We really want to bring the vision to life. And I understand and I know that we all as district staff are embedded and ingrained in this work. We all believe that all students should have opportunity, all students can learn, and we're here to do that. But I really want to take a moment to thank the committee, because it is a gift to be able to come and speak to a committee that isn't just the Special Education Committee, but is the committee where we should be talking about how are we providing instruction for all students and all diverse learners. And so I just really want to commend and show gratitude to this team and this committee for inviting us here and inviting all of us here today to share our stories and the work that we're all doing to support students with disabilities and without, because the truth of the matter is that this work benefits not just students with disabilities. It benefits all students. All students are learning empathy. All students are learning understanding. All students are learning respect. All of our adults are doing the same. So by being invited here today and recognizing that work, that is a huge step for all of our students and all of our school teams to promote the work and move the work forward. So I just want to say thank you very much from the Division of Special Education.
Thank you. But I do have one last question though. We talked about professional development and also the Summer Institute. I think it was at Venice. So I want to know the professional development that you provide at your school around inclusions, all of the things that you shared. Are those, where do those professional developments come from? Is it the special ed teachers who are doing it? Are they collaborating with Gen Ed? Are you getting it from the district? Or do you have a company who does it? Anybody?
I want to first say, because she's going to get more in-depth about being specific about that, but I want to give credit and kudos also to the Division of Special Education, who has been in our corner and supporting us the whole time. So when we talked a little bit about how we began, I realized I left out mentioning that they would come to our school, that Leela Rondo has attended multiple meetings with our team to help them see the bigger picture, and they came and visited us, and so they have been in support. So I want to also, and they do provide a lot of resources that we use during our institute. So you can be a little more in depth.
So our Summer Institute kind of just recently started last year because our teachers were collaborating together, and then, summer hits, and then they would take their own time. And sometimes pairs couldn't meet, or we'd have new pairs and, maybe their contract didn't start yet, so there was variables. So we said, how do we get them together to reflect on their year, like their glows and grows and things like that? And then also, how do they, because when you have pairs that have never worked together, how do they know how to build instruction for students? We also started this time building, let me use an acronym, for special education teachers have what we call CSACs. And so those are students on their CSACs that they'll have for the year that they're providing services for, monitoring, writing IEPs, those things. So those special education teachers are collaborating with their co-teacher pair. They already know a bulk of who their students are going to be for the new year. And when they have those new pairs, this is the time that they do instruction. And then we built our own internally. We don't have a company that comes. We use some of the resources that the Division of Special Education has had. But we also do a lot of time for reflecting. And then what are we going to change? How would that look? We use data, iReady data. There's a lot of grade data. We look at grade data. There's a lot of pieces that we use during that Summer Institute. This year we have not asked, but we have opened our doors if the other schools that came, for instance, like Jordan High School, Fairfax High School, if they start utilizing some of the strategies that we are doing, if they would like to come and partake in our Summer Institute. So we're not sure yet if they'll be joining, but we have opened it up to other schools, and we build it from the inside. And it's teacher-driven, and then it just goes from there.
And it's led by teachers.
And it's led by teachers, absolutely. Thank you.
Makes me happy. Oh, my goodness. Yes.
I just was going to share for Vista, we have worked in combination and I think would continue to work in combination with the Division of Special Ed for both deepening our professional development around the strategies that our co-teachers use around the co-teaching strategies in terms of like the types of co-teaching they do in the classroom to just continue to strengthen those strategies that they use in terms of parallel teaching, the different styles of co-teaching, as well as we have really fantastic instructional coaches. We are a Tier 3 school, so we have our the Educational Transformation Office support, as well as the Division of Instruction. So we have a lot of professional development around curriculum and instruction, as well as our instructional coaches. So we have those supports as well for professional development around just the curriculum and instructional side and really digging deeper. So some of our focus elements this year are really getting deeper into rigor and discourse. So we're going to build some instruction and support around those, and then just kind of having it be teacher-led while providing those instructional supports there. So kind of putting those strategies and structures in place and then letting the teachers just dig in with the resources that we provide them. So that's our strategy for us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Wow. I didn't even realize it was already 6:19. Like, I had to remind myself, this is such a good conversation, right? So thank you all. You all made it so powerful and so informative. And I learned, and it just makes me so proud. And I want this for all of our schools. I always say that when I get folks here. Some of the beautiful things I heard were co-teaching, touring schools and taking your time to really learn about it, get your teachers on board, your staff on board, and ease into it. And I heard that a lot from everybody, how it's a team effort, right? Not just at the teachers in the classroom, but the counseling staff and the admin and the para-educators. It's a mindset shift, right? I really appreciate what you said, Denise, about how we just need to be all teachers for all students. As a special ed teacher, I always felt that way, and I learned a lot about restorative practices for repairing harm or relationships, amongst adults. I think we need to use that more often. And then teacher-created and teacher-driven professional development makes me very happy as well. And of course, hearing Mom speak about your commitment to ensuring that Devin was included in all of his education and how you've celebrated every step of the way, and you're a very key part of that, of giving him access to everything. So thank you for that. You're a model for a lot of parents, and I'm really grateful to you for doing that, and Devin too. And I'm so excited for his diploma. I just can't wait. But anyway, I'm gonna close this meeting just to remind you this is our last meeting of the year, but I'm hoping to continue chairing this committee next year. And if you'd like to continue participating, let us know. We will follow up with what the process is going to be. And I think that's it. I'm going to hand it over to Mike for some public comment, and then please don't leave because we have some certificates for you. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. I'll call on the folks who listed themselves as being here in person. I can't quite see if they're here, but I think I'll know when they're standing at the podium. Aaron Studer, are you here? Or Aaron Stutter, are you here? Come on up. You'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin.
This is dangerous public comment holding us back from dinner. My name is Aaron Studer. I'm the executive director at Chime Institute in Los Angeles, and Chairperson Griego, Board Member Newbill, Dr. Baez, distinguished committee. Thank you so much for letting me say a few words. I won't read a ton of this other than to say CHIME stands for Community Honoring Inclusive Model Education, and it started as a federal grant project in 1987 at California State University Northridge to create a fully inclusive preschool program, which we still operate to this day. We have a regional center vendor program to provide interventions to children birth to age 3, as well as our TK through 8 charter school. All of our programs are 100% inclusion. 100% of the children we serve are included 100% of the time. And we actually partner in many ways with LAUSD. And I'm going to stop rambling for a second. So well done. You guys are awesome. I loved hearing about all the progress of these schools. That is amazing. I'm so excited about the work that LAUSD is doing around this. And we continue to partner with LAUSD. We're a technical assistance site for the Supporting Inclusive Practices statewide grant. And we actually had folks from LAUSD out with us last week doing a site visit at our program. I thought it was 3 minutes. It's 2 minutes. I'm way behind. I'm also just going to cite that there is another innovation that happens at LAUSD called Charter Operated Programs Option 3 within the special education SELPA. And I just want to talk for maybe 10 seconds about how important that is, ensuring that the charter partners within LAUSD have the resources they need to support students with special needs as well. It's been a little over a decade since that started, and the key metric that I hope this committee tracks is that the number of students with disabilities in charter schools has increased, including students with significant disabilities. Such an important and innovative move on behalf of LAUSD, so thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's see, we have Nelita Mendez. Are you here? Nelita? I do not see Nelita. How about Maria Torres? Are you here? Not seeing Ms. Torres either, and the rest are remote via Zoom. So let's go to Concerned Educator. Concerned Educator, please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Concerned Educator. I see you've
Hi, I'm confirming Dr. Fetzer's Sandy Hook Promise issue may be evaluated in August by your School Safety and Climate Committee. So he may be given an agenda item regarding it. LAUSD's Sandy Hook Promise is earning millions in donations, and if the incident was manipulated for something that it wasn't, do you agree it must be reviewed? I hold a master's in fine arts and theater from Sarah Lawrence College, and I was a SAG-AFTRA actor in TV and film for over 25 years, many a background actor scenes. So you might see me as a kind of expert. And Dr. Fetzer showed 2 photos back to back. And one photo had children in a line. And the next photo had the same line, but some of those children were in different positions. Most of them were calm in demeanor, yet one was out of place physically and emotionally. And this wasn't natural. I sensed she was acting. And even if she wasn't, The fact Dr. Fetzer was denied his constitutional right of a trial by jury and unable to give his evidence, this is reason for concern. And also because people are instantly labeled and silenced if they question this, leads me to believe something is off. Dr. Fetzer graduated Princeton University magna cum laude. He was a captain in the Marine Corps and resigned to earn his PhD. As a professor of philosophy, he's won many teaching and research awards. You would want him to teach our students. So I see him as acting in good faith. He has contacts and documents to support it. And I'm looking forward to Dr. Fetzer and our supporters on this matter speak today, including a former LAUSD student. I thank you for this empowerment meeting. It made me feel empowered. Thanks.
Thank you for your time. Let's see, the next caller is Concerned Parent. Concerned Parent, please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Concerned Parent.
Good afternoon, committee members. First and foremost, I want to congratulate Devin and family for this huge accomplishment. I'm pretty sure that it wasn't easy, but I want to remind you that in 2022, the Office of Civil Rights found that LAUSD failed to accurately track services, limited services, failed to institute a learning plan, and informed staff that the district was not responsible for providing compensatory education. The LAUSD violated students with disabilities' civil rights to an education. Now, Ms. Board Member Grego, you mentioned that the Division of Special Education has a lot of trust to regain and restore. So I ask, can it be restored when the same staff that violated students with disabilities rights are still staffed in the Division of Special Education? Now, what we have learned is that, and I hope that you paid attention to what students were saying in the presentation, that it seems that their place has to be earned in an inclusive environment, such as general education. While yes, students are entitled to a continuum of services and most importantly, the least restrictive environment, they are also entitled to spend to the maximum extent possible time with their typical peers, which oftentimes is not possible in special education classes. So I hope that you look into the implementation of how inclusive practices are being provided and opportunities that are being provided, because general education access and access to typical peers should not be dependent on teacher choice. It should be an IEP team decision, which is formed by parents, and oftentimes our concerns are very dismissed. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Okay, our next caller is Isabel. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Isabel.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Sí, buenas tardes, se escucha.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es
Good
Isabel.
afternoon. My name is Isabel.
Mi preocupación-
My worry with the district ultimately is, or recently, is how you are doing the service locks, and you're telling us that students are receiving services when in reality they're not. It's not happening. They're lying to us in a very bad way, and there's no justice for that. It's not right, because our children have valuable time that they can be using, they can be benefiting from these services. You, as our representatives, have the responsibility to secure that the Department of Special Education are following the laws and that the students are receiving the services appropriately, which have to do with IEP, knowing that if they're not doing it, they're violating the law, and it's not fair for our students. Now, when it has to do with inclusion, I would like for it to be more diverse. I would like for it not to be certain students that need to be there. All of our students have the right to spend time with regular students, because the reality of the world, that's how it is. Thank you. Great day.
Mariam Hanane. I am an investigative journalist, best known for directing the award-winning film Vanishing of the Bees. narrated by Elliot Page. I've been a journalist. I was living in California for 23 years, and I'm coming here to stand for Dr. Jim Fetzer, a colleague who I have done shows with, and state that as a United States citizen and human, and especially a journalist, that he deserves to have a jury and that I could be him. I recently have written a very controversial book on George Floyd, and that I would invite all people who are questioning him to consider that these events are very multi-layered and complex, and that if we were to look at the Alex Jones trial, for instance, I'll just give you a little piece of education, that if you do a sidebar, usually, of course, always, actually, the sidebar is silence. The whole point of a sidebar is that people don't get to hear what's being discussed, except in the case of Alex Jones, it was broadcast to the people at home like a show trial. So my colleagues have, I know people who have gone to jail, have been falsely accused by the government, and that I believe that we are a lot of times criminalizing good people and glorifying criminals. And so I was just inviting.
Thank you for your time. The next caller is S.J. Rollins. S.J. Rollins, I see you're on the line. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. S.J. Rollins. S.J. Rollins, please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Okay, moving on. Let's see, we have Dr. James Fetzer. You're listed as speaking remotely, but I do not have you signed in. Are you in the room? I do not see him in the room. We called them Nelita Mendez. Maria Daisy Ortiz, I see you're on the line. Please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Ms. Ortiz is going to speak in Spanish, so if you have those headsets handy, slap them on and you will experience simultaneous translation. Maria Daisy Ortiz, I see you're on the line. Please press *6 to unmute yourself. Por favor, oprime estrellita 6 para hablar.
Buenas tardes, ¿me escuchan?
Yes, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Maria Daisy Ortiz. And first of all, I wanted to talk to this committee to help improve the services provided, the service for exceptional needs for kids with dyslexia, for example. And there's children that are exceptional, right? Children with dyslexia learn through action, but the teachers have to give that instruction. And a lot of teachers don't give that instruction, and they're in regular classes, and this isn't being done, so our kids are falling behind. I wasn't in agreement with the cell phone ban because of that, my daughter's in college and she has an instrument that records the class so she can rewatch it and help her stay updated. So technology can help us have a fluid understanding, but the district is behind in that sense. So I would like for this committee to reconsider having an elective class for emotional intelligence for kinder through 12 so that they can be educated on this topic, because teachers after school are exhausted and not as efficient. They need to do this class too in the morning so that the professional development is fresh and they start and their day this way. And if you reconsider this, it could assist changes. So thank you, and
Thank
may
you
you
for
be
your
well.
time. Okay, let's see. We have Marcela Garcia. Are you on the line? Marcela Garcia. Have you calling in? Are you in the room? No. Raquel Diaz? Raquel Diaz? No Raquel Diaz. Looks like we have Mr. Dave Tokovsky on the line. Dave Tokovsky, please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I totally applaud the chair's summation that it requires a mind shift. That is as good as it gets. The actual piece is to remove hostility. That was the language of the 20-year consent decree, was that the school district retained a structure and delivery that had hostility at every level to special needs kids. And so the vocabulary that we heard today was, oh, he's not in a normal class. He's not in a regular class. They have disabilities. I think we need to start looking at the vocabulary that we're still using. Now, this committee is instruction, so it's for all 400,000 or 500,000 kids in charters and in the district. Today's discussion was around 3,000 kids, which is roughly 0.5% of the kids. And hopefully, as you go forward with this committee, you will combine it so that they're not two segregated committees, special ed and instruction, and that you can cover big topics, the arts, social studies, reading, writing, creating thinkers, and the shortage of certain employees to help instructional leads, the Williams violations. And finally, just wanted to say to Vicki, I think the key piece here is not that there's going to be cuts in special ed, it's whether it's going to be block granted. And we should be fighting for a block grant, special ed and federal money, because in California that works well. We will cut out the 10% of special ed monies retained by Sacramento, and it would come directly to the school district. It is one of the only bipartisan issues left in America is special ed, and I don't think even the most insensitive Republicans are going to be cutting special ed. That kind of rhetoric is wrong. It's about how they're going to restructure it, and the district needs to be advocating for a block grant that keeps the funding at the high level and increases to the 40%. And so I thank you for the committee. It does take a mind shift, but most importantly, it's about a hostile environment and the number of lawsuits.
Thank you, Mr. Tokovsky. Let's see, Marcela Garcia just arrived online. So Marcela Garcia, please press *6 to unmute yourself, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak once you begin. Ms. Garcia is going to speak in Spanish, so if you'd like to hear what she's saying in English, please put on those headphones.
Buenas tardes, ¿me escuchan?
Good afternoon. My name is Marcela Garcia. Good afternoon. I have 2 children in the district. I'm only calling because in the Aldama school, we have dual language. So we want it to continue, and it does continue, but the principal has certain applications to open a new class, and we need those funds. Please don't minimize these applications that we have, that the principal has, because they're children that want to be in the dual program. The district, if I remember correctly, 13 years ago, were promoting the dual program quite a bit. So now we need those funds so that we can have a new teacher for the dual program. Or if she's there, we would like the district to have those funds for the school. That school has fought so much so that they can continue that program, that dual program. My kids have benefited from that program so they can speak and write and read Spanish academically proficiently. And where they need to have that and learn that is in school. So please don't ignore these applications that the principal has obtained. We need another class. and you need to find the sufficient funds to do so. You need to have a reserve for this type of class, please. I thank you very much for listening to me, but please consider what the principal at Aldama is doing, and please don't ignore those applications, because just how kids go, some from other countries come and they need these programs. Thank you very much. And also please consider why you're taking tutoring away from high school.
We appreciate your time. That concludes public comment.
All right, wonderful. Well, once again, thank you to everyone. Special thanks to Dr. Baez for supporting this work. Dr. Lourdes Ramirez Ortiz, thank you so much. And of course, all of you here who volunteer your time in the afternoons for this very special work. And we're going to pass out some certificates of appreciation, and I'd love to take a photograph with you all here. And if our friends would like to come and take a picture with us, I'd love that. Thank you so much.